Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Shotara Shata Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Shotara Shata Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Kiri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Sankirtan Ki Jai. Over Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Hey.
I was listening to the beautiful flute behind you.
Nice picture, huh?
Nice picture.
Right. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 9. Parinishthitopi nargunya uttama shloka lilaya grihita cheta rajarshe akyanam yad adhitavan. Parinishthitopi nargunya uttama shloka lilaya grihita cheta rajarshe akyanam yad adhitavan. Parinishthitopi nargunya uttama shloka lilaya grihita cheta rajarshe akyanam yad adhitavan. Please chant, dear devotees.
परिनिष्ठितोऽपि नैर्गुण्य उत्तमश्लोकलीलया गृहीतचेतराजर्षे आख्यानां यद् अधितावन्
परिनिष्ठितोऽपि नैर्गुण्य उत्तमश्लोकलीलया गृहीतचेतराजर्षे आख्यानं यदधीतवान्.
Hare Krishna. Parinishthitoऽपि nirgunya uttam shloka lilya grihitacheta rajarshe आख्यानं यद् अधीतवान्.
All right, thank you all. Synonyms. Parinishthita, fully realized. Api, in spite of. Nairagunye, in transcendence. Uttama, enlightened. Shloka, verse. Lilaya, by the pastimes. Rahita, being attracted. Chetaha, attention. Rajarshe, O saintly king. Akhyanam, delineation. Yat, that. And Hitavan, I have studied. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. O saintly king, I was certainly situated perfectly in transcendence, yet I was still attracted by the delineation of the pastimes of the Lord, who is described by enlightened verses. So, of course, this is Shukadev Goswami speaking. Purport. The absolute truth is realized at the first instance as the impersonal Brahman by philosophical speculation, and later as the supersoul by further progress of transcendental knowledge. But if, by the grace of the Lord, an impersonalist is enlightened by the superior statements of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is also converted into a transcendental devotee of the personality of Godhead. With a poor fund of knowledge, we cannot adjust to the idea of the personality of the absolute truth. And therefore, the personal activities of the Lord are deplored by the less intelligent impersonalists. But reasons and arguments, together with the transcendental process of approaching the absolute truth, help even the staunch impersonalist to become attracted by the personal activities of the Lord. A person like Shukadev Goswami cannot be attracted by any mundane activity. But when such a devotee is convinced by a superior method, he is certainly attracted by the transcendental activities of the Lord. The Lord is transcendental, as are his activities. He is neither inactive nor impersonal. Translation one more time. O saintly king, I was certainly situated perfectly in transcendence, yet I was still attracted by the delineation of the pastimes of the Lord, who is described by enlightened verses. Om Jnanatim Radhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stavitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Padati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamin Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Charine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'm grateful to be with you all this morning. So we're hearing about at least what stands out to me. Every verse, you can speak on many different topics. There's different principles which appear in each verse. Each verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, says Rupa Goswami, pours down a flood of prema. Actually, not only each verse, he says each syllable of Srimad Bhagavatam pours down a flood of prema. And Srila Prabhupada encouraged devotees to study Shastra from many angles of vision. So when anyone speaks on a verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, they're giving one or a few angles of vision of unlimited potential angles of vision. So we could go on having these Zoom classes life after life after life and never reach the end of studying one verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's amazing. So what I wanted to share on is a bit of the difference between impersonalism and personalism, some of the logical arguments that help us understand why impersonalism doesn't make sense, and the glorious process of bhakti yoga, which attracts even the most realized transcendentalists, the most realized impersonalists. So Srila Prabhupada begins by explaining the difference between the three stages of the absolute truth: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives an amazing analogy to understand the difference between the three stages of realization. So the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami explains, Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advaya, that the absolute truth is non-dual, it is one, and it is expressed, manifested in three features: Brahman, the all-pervading; Paramatma, the Lord dwelling within the heart of each being and within each atom; and Bhagavan, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So they are all the absolute truth. They're non-different from each other, just different levels of understanding the absolute truth. So the analogy goes like this. Imagine halava. Not very difficult to imagine halava. We've all had experience of halava. So the first level of understanding halava, which would be analogous to Brahman realization, is like smelling the halava which is being cooked in the other room. So we're sitting in the living room, someone's cooking in the kitchen, and you can smell the ghee, you can smell the wheat farina that's being cooked, toasted. You can smell the maybe the berries that are in there, and you begin to get this fragrance and you become attracted. But can we say that is the experience of halava? In one sense, it is. Yes, you're experiencing halava, but it's not complete. So to go further, you have to go into the kitchen, and then you can see it. Okay, so it's got some form, and you can see its beautiful dark brown color as it's been toasted. You can see the blueberries in there, and that's another level of understanding. But still, it's not complete. It's only complete when you actually have halava on your plate and you put it on your tongue, you chew it, you experience the flavor of the halava. That's the complete experience. So in the same way, without understanding the personality of Godhead, we won't get the flavor. We won't get the rasa that we're looking for, which our soul longs for. So I find that a very clear analogy to help understand the difference between these three levels of the absolute truth. So now, for someone to become a realized impersonalist is amazing. We might speak of impersonalism when we compare it to bhakti as lower or the more difficult path. These are true. But still, compared to someone who's just an outright materialist, it's amazing. to consider. To be Brahman realized is amazing. Because this world right now is mad after sense pleasure, after sense gratification, which is available even to animals. Rishabhadev explains that this human life is not meant for sense gratification. Kashtan kaman arhate vidbujam ye, which is available even to animals like pigs who eat the waste products of other animals. And if humans are just striving for sense pleasure with no greater goal in life, then we're just like animals running on 4 wheels versus on 4 legs, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And yet the whole world is mad after this. Every billboard you see is, at least in America and other unfortunate countries, every billboard is advertising sinful life. Come to our casino, eat this meat, drink this liquor. There's attractive women advertised. Even as you go on the bridge into Philadelphia, there's a sign of like a strip bar. It's really so sad that these things are so publicly promoted in this culture. And this is what people are striving for. People are striving just to satisfy their senses in this world. So they go crazy trying to accumulate money because they want artha and kama. Artha means you work and you get money, and then kama means you enjoy your senses. So people now don't want dharma or moksha. They just want artha, kama. Dharma, because your work should be righteous. Your work should be something that benefits, that helps society. That's dharmic work. And then naturally, you get some economic benefit from that, and you get some sense gratification. But eventually, people become tired of it and want moksha, liberation. But right now, the sad state is that people just want money so they can enjoy their senses, and there's no greater goal in life. So people will go to school from age of 5 to sometimes up to 30 years old, getting advanced degrees and working and working and working, and then retiring, and then with whatever savings they have, just trying to enjoy their senses with no greater goal in life. And people who are able to do this well are idolized. We think of billionaires like Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, or Elon Musk. And maybe Elon Musk is trying a little bit further. He wants to take us to other planets. But still, the purpose on those other planets is sense gratification, just kama. So the point is, this whole world is mad just after sense pleasure. And for someone to deny that, for someone to actually go against the grain, even in an impersonal path, is very impressive. It's an amazing thing to resist the urges of the senses, which are calling you, especially, as I was saying, these advertisements, not just on billboards, but on our phones, on our computers. Everywhere we look, we get attracted, we get called to gratify our senses. So it's a very difficult path. Krishna says, kleshodika taraste sham avyakta sapta chetasam. That there's always klesha, there's always suffering in this impersonal path, because it's very, very difficult to do. And in this age, it's practically impossible. And so if someone is able to actually become Brahman realized, then they achieve Brahmananda. the bliss of being Brahman realized, the bliss of realizing I'm an eternal spirit soul. And that's an amazing thing. It's an amazing feat. Brahmananda, freedom from suffering. But this pleasure is compared to the water in a calf's footprint. Just this much pleasure. And so compare that to the material pleasure. I'm trying to make this comparison so we can see the material pleasure that people are seeking now, the whole world is going crazy for. If someone's able to give that up, they can achieve Brahmananda, this great bliss, this freedom from suffering, knowing I'm an eternal spiritual being, I'm connected to the whole. But that pleasure is compared to just the water in a calf's footprint. Whereas bhakti, the pleasure we get from practicing devotional service, is compared to an ocean. Lord Chaitanya says, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, that not only an ocean, but an ever-increasing ocean of bliss. Ananda Buddhi Vardhanam. And Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam. At every step, we get to experience the great joy, this great Ananda. From beginning to end, we experience great happiness by practicing devotional service. So, yes, it's an amazing thing, this Brahmananda. But compared to devotional service, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And so, because of this, if someone isn't envious, Mayavadi are considered envious. They want to become God. And they will criticize devotees. They'll criticize, blaspheme the Supreme Lord. Whereas Brahmavadis are innocent. They just don't know. They've never heard that there is something more than the impersonal understanding of the absolute truth. So they're Brahman realized, but they haven't yet heard about Bhagavan as he is. So those in this category are like Shukadev Goswami, who we're hearing in this verse. Shukadev stayed in the womb until he was 16 years old because he didn't want to come out and become affected by the material influence. And if he was feeling that way when he was in this world 5,000 years ago, how much worse is it now? So he stayed in the womb till he was 16 years old. When he finally came out, fully grown, he just ran away. So he wouldn't become attached. And his father sent some of his students, I believe it was his students, to go and find Shukadev. And he had them recite verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And so when they recited verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadev Goswami, although he was fully Brahman realized, not attracted to anything in this material world, he was attracted by hearing the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is exactly what he's saying in this verse here. Although I was perfectly situated in transcendence, I was still attracted by hearing the pastimes of the Lord. We just covered this verse in class last week. Aho Bakiyam, this verse where there's a description of Putana and how Krishna is so merciful that even somebody who came to try to kill him, he took the one good quality in that act, that she was approaching him as a mother, and he gave her the highest benefit of being his, being like a nurse in the spiritual world in Goloka Vrindavan. And so I believe it's Shukadev Goswami. Forgive me not remembering who is speaking that, but it's saying, who can be more merciful? Who's more worthy of taking shelter of than this most merciful Lord, who accepts the most insignificant qualification and gives the highest reward as a result? So this was Shukadev Goswami's transformation. Also, the four Kumaras are an example of Brahmavadis, Brahman-realized souls, who became attracted by the Lord. They went to Vaikuntha because they were children, and so nobody stops a child from going anywhere. You can see here at the Sunday feast, if there's a child walking up to the front of the temple during the class or during a kirtan, the parent will usually just let them go, unless they're going to cause any trouble. So the four Kumaras like that were able to go anywhere they liked. They kept themselves as young boys, so they wouldn't have to deal with sex desire. They could stay brahmacharis, travel around. So they went to the gates of Vaikuntha, and eventually, although they were stopped, Lord Vishnu came out. And the tulsi on the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu had this fragrance which wafted into the noses of the four Kumaras. And when they smelled the tulsi from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, they became attracted, and they became personalists simply by smelling that tulsi. So these are a few examples of those who are innocent and become attracted by the wonders of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that if an impersonalist is enlightened by the superior statements of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is converted into a devotee of the personality of Godhead. He says further that reasons and arguments, together with the transcendental process of approaching the absolute truth, can help even the staunch impersonalist to become attracted by the personal activities of the Lord. So there's the two components here. There's the reason and argument, and there's the process. So there's the head and there's the heart. There's the knowledge and there's the process, which transforms our heart, which gives us the experience that attracts us. So a few reasons and arguments that I'm aware of, I'll share, and afterwards, I'd love to hear more if you all have them. So reasons and arguments as to why the personal understanding of the absolute truth is superior. One of them is very clear, Srila Prabhupada gives. Krishna is the source of everything, or even without saying Krishna, if we're speaking to someone who has impersonal understanding. The absolute truth is the source of everything. Om Purnamada Purnamida. So the absolute truth must contain, the source must contain everything that emanates from it. So if unlimited persons come from this absolute truth, all of us, then how can the Supreme be without personhood? If we say that the Supreme doesn't have a personality, then that's saying the Supreme doesn't have something. It's limiting the Supreme. So this is one argument. Another we can all attest to is that relationships are just hard sometimes, right? So to accept a person as the absolute truth, to accept God as a person who we have a relationship with, can be difficult if we're coming from a place, as many of us are in Kali Yuga, of having many relationships that are maybe abusive, maybe just difficult. Maybe we've been hurt, misunderstood. So because we've been hurt so many times, we've been let down so many times in our relationships in the material world. So then we might naturally be averse to having a personal relationship with the Supreme. And so for this reason, it's easier to consider the Supreme is the universe. The Supreme is consciousness. The Supreme is this white light, or just the source. And I'll merge back into that Supreme. So our trouble with relationships in the material world will make us potentially averse to having a relationship with God. Another thing is just pride. If you accept the path of bhakti, you have to humble yourself. You have to humble yourself to a spiritual master to get guidance. You have to humble yourself to the supreme degree before Krishna, because Krishna is unlimited in every way. He's better at everything than we will ever be. And there's no possibility that we can ever be better than Krishna in any way. And so if you're proud, and if you think you're really good at things, if you think you're wonderful and nobody is better than you, how can you possibly understand that there's somebody who's unlimitedly better than you in every possible way? So pride can limit us from understanding that we are different from the Supreme. The Supreme is always greater than us. And it may be more attractive to think that actually I am God. Or I've just forgotten that I'm God. It's very attractive. If you think about it, okay, so I can just meditate, and in a short time, I can become God, and I can do whatever I want. I can have all power, all knowledge. Yeah, that sounds great. Sign me up. I want to become God. And so you can become Lord Brahma. That's possible. And you can be godlike, definitely. But this is a misunderstanding. Srila Prabhupada gives such a good example. Okay, if you are God and you've just forgotten, then, and this is all your lila, this whole world is just your place of play. This is the idea, is God is one person and undivided, but then to enjoy variety, God expands himself into many, as all of us, to enjoy lila. And so we are all God in this sense. We're all God in different, like cut up into pieces. And when you put everyone back together, then that's God. And so if this whole world, this whole material world we're in is just a place of lila, then you're saying that the pigs who just sit and eat waste of other animals, that's lila? You're saying that wars is lila, and torture and slaughterhouses and these horrific things? How can that be lila? Why would God create these horrific things for fun? So this is one also logical argument. Another is that if we are covered over by illusion, say we are Brahman, we are separated into parts, and we are temporarily covered by illusion, by Maya. That means Maya is supreme. you're saying Brahman is supreme, and then Brahman comes under the influence of Maya to enjoy this variety. Then you're saying Brahman, the supreme, is subordinate to Maya, which means that Maya is actually supreme. So these are some of the logical misunderstandings, fallacies that can help us understand impersonalism and personalism. If you all have any now you'd like to share, you're welcome to raise your hand or unmute. Otherwise, I'll ask again after I finish. So I wanted to speak on this, the reason and arguments. And then the last thing I'll share here is about the transcendental process of approaching the absolute truth. So the process of bhakti. I already mentioned the verse, Klesho Dika Tadastesham. The impersonal path is just hard. It's full of suffering. Because to deny sensory activities is unnatural. We want to be engaged in activities as a soul. Krishna explains this also in the Gita, that the soul is always active by nature. The soul always wants to be doing something. And so to deny that is unnatural and very difficult. Whereas in the process of bhakti, all of our senses can be engaged. You can just think of each sense. Taste. We get to taste wonderful prasadam. Unlimited varieties of prasadam. Smell, just like the four Kumaras, they smelled the tulsi leaves on the lotus feet of the Lord. There's the incense. There's the fragrance of the oils, perfumes put on the deities. There's the smell of the prasadam. There's so many wonderful things to smell. The Nrsinga oil, which is offered, which is passed around and smeared on the hand of the devotees. There's so many wonderful things to smell. We have the darshan of the deities. We can use our eyes to behold the wonderful beauty. Dressed in different ways each day. Sometimes their faces are decorated with beautiful symbols and paint. There's wonderful pictures we can see that devotees have done, windows to the spiritual world. With our ears, we can hear the wonderful sounds of kirtan, the wonderful verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. With our touch sensation, like Maharaj Ambarish, he would touch the bodies of the devotees of the Lord. We can embrace our loved ones, embrace our friends. If you're fortunate, you can serve the deities with your own hands and go on the altar like that. So all of our senses can be engaged. There's so many activities we can do. And whatever is your propensity, if you like to cook, if you like to sing, if you like to dance, if you like to distribute books, if you like to read and study, there's so many varieties of activities you can do that can satisfy you and please Krishna, do practical service to help spread the Krishna consciousness movement, to please the devotees, and at the same time make advancement. So it's very easy to do. And we get this heart transforming process. We've all had experience in a wonderful kirtan, for example, when you just have a heart moving experience. You maybe feel overwhelmed with gratitude. You feel tears come to your eyes, that you feel so happy that you have, that Srila Prabhupada, that your spiritual master has brought you to this practice of bhakti, to the shelter of the devotees, so that we can chant the holy names. We have realizations of our relationship with Krishna more and more, and it affects our heart in such a profound way. I'm just recently seeing our friend Dr. Bruce. He was living here with us. Some of you should remember him. He's still coming to the Sunday feast. And more, he's becoming so happy. He's just smiling every time I see him now. And he was telling me that this practice is so meaningful to him. He's getting more and more faith in the process of bhakti, and he's seeing that it's lighting up every aspect of his life. Srila Prabhupada says in Nectar of Devotion introduction that bhakti is the one switch which illuminates everything everywhere. Amazing. Because when you practice bhakti, the sun of Lord Krishna enters your life. And when you're in the darkness, everything looks like oneness, right? It's all one. Everything is just dark. But when the sun comes up, you see the unlimited variety of things. You feel happy, you feel warmth, you feel hope. This is the light of Krishna entering our lives. There's also the analogy of rivers flowing into the ocean. An impersonalist wants to merge like a river into the ocean. But a devotee doesn't want to merge. They want to be like an aquatic, swimming around in the ocean, going into the depths, exploring and seeing the amazing varieties that exist within the depths of the ocean. So when you compare the Brahma Jyoti, which is just light, just consciousness, to the spiritual world, which is filled with unlimited Vaikuntha planets, with unlimited expansions of the Lord, with Lord Ram's abode, Yodhya Dham, with Mathura, Goloka Vrindavan. They're all unlimited, and there's no end to the experiences we can have, the depth of our relationships with Krishna and the devotees in the spiritual world. Why would you ever settle for this Brahma Jyoti experience? What happens is you get dissatisfied and you come down. Ye and ye ravindaksha vimukta maninas. People think that they're liberated. Vimukta maninas. Tvayasta bhavad avishuddha buddhaya, due to impure intelligence. So they don't have a complete understanding. Their intelligence is contaminated. Avishuddha buddhaya. And what happens is that they fall down into the material world because they have not understood, they have not grasped the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, which are so wonderful. I haven't even started to describe the pastimes of the Lord. And perhaps we can do that in the discussion, because that's what this verse is specifically describing, is that Shukadev was attracted by the pastimes of the Lord, who is described by the enlightened verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. You could go on and on and on describing the wonders, the glories of the practice of bhakti yoga. But I want to leave that to you all so we can discuss further about either the reasons and arguments that help convince you or others that personalism is the more complete understanding of the absolute, and about the glories of this transcendental process of bhakti yoga. So I am going to stop here and request some of you to kindly unmute and share reflections, add to this discussion. Hare Krishna. So what is it? This is an easy question. In the practice of bhakti yoga, what attracts you? What is it in the practice of bhakti that you wouldn't get as an impersonalist, that grabs your heart? Yes, Kalpesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Prabhupada.
So, Prabhuji, I explain what my limited understanding and experiences I have while walking in the path of spirituality. So before I came to ISKCON, I was looking for a path, and in that endeavor, in spirituality, I was always interested in doing something spirituality, but not sure what to do it. So starting with it, when it gets started, the idea was like little bit like a materialism, like what Shunyavad, the Buddha says, right? So that was the mentality. More like how to do materially good in everything, And once I didn't know the philosophy, but that was the intent behind the mindset. And then slowly progressing into that, it kinds of, I realized that it was more than the second step was like doing the Advait kind of, the impersonal aspect of it, that everything it was more egoistic kind of for oneself, And then I understand the relationship. That was the core in the Bhakti Yoga, that any exchange in this world which we make, it's a duality, right? It's a dual. So in that relationship, if we understand the relationship, and very simplistically, we can experience. I personally experienced like our parents, that relationship, that there is some, we say it unconditional, but it's conditional though. But that is what mother will do to the children, right? So so in my process of thinking, like Bhakti Yoga is all about relationship. So if we understand that there is a relationship, then everything, the quality will automatically manifest. But that relationship is something I discovered, which is what made me like, okay, Bhakti Yoga is the most simplistic way of doing things and attaining the transcendental quality, rather than trying to go by Jnana Marga, where you are mostly imposing and you're doing so many sadhanas, and it's very difficult, to be honest. It's very difficult to do that. So Bhakti Yoga is relatively simpler if we can develop the relationship. That was.
Thank you. Yeah, we naturally want to have sweet relationships, and we get dissatisfied with relationships here in the material world, and we don't think that there can be not only a relationship with Krishna, but relationships with other devotees, which can be unconditional and nothing like we've ever experienced. So that's why actually it takes a devotee to help us become a devotee. It takes a devotee to show us what that looks like. We receive that kindness, which is unlike anything we've experienced before. And that attracts us. So great points, Kalpesh Prabhu. I appreciate you sharing that. Would anyone else like to share about their experience coming to Bhakti, learning from the impersonal to the personal? Or on the other questions? Yes, Manohar. And then Anna, you please share after Manohar.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for giving class. Yeah, I was also thinking in the same lines of just relationship. It can be really easy to turn to impersonalism when we experience material relationships and the fleeting nature, maybe even the painful nature of those relationships. But then to experience a relationship in the spiritual context, the natural way of things, it's so enlivening to the heart and so soothing to one's being that, yeah, it just becomes, like you had mentioned, very natural that are attracted to that, natural that we want to engage with that, natural that we engage in acts of loving service. And so when we get tastes or glimpses of that, it really helps, in my experience, give up lower tastes and strive to attain those higher and higher tastes, which we learn are eternal. And so it just keeps encouraging us to strive for that eternal situation.
Thank you. Yeah, that reminds me also how in the impersonal path, you're going alone. It's all on you. But in bhakti, we all support each other. And it makes it so much easier that we can take support from our peers. We can confide in each other. We can encourage each other. We have mentors to guide us, gurus to guide us. So yeah, and it's so sweet. Thank you for sharing that point. Anna?
Thank you for your association, Prabhu. And so I want to say something about what you mentioned. How can we, I paraphrase, I'm sorry, get more comfortable with the injustices or absurdities of the world and still be able to be on some kind of spiritual path. So that's an old philosophical question, of course, but I think you put it together, so it makes it easier to answer this question in a way that being on, this spiritual path, kind of like makes it less relevant, the horrific evolutionary processes that are happening in the material world, because we come to understanding that spiritual aspect of everything is the source, and it's more, it helps us to survive the, material nature, evolution, all that. So something behind it is always there, and while we, try to self-realize and understand that, that's exactly why we can live in this material world that is constantly changing and looks horrific to us. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So what I'm taking from your statement is our spiritual practice, our bhakti practice, roots us, and we're not so affected by the material world.
And we're not so affected by this enigma. We stop thinking about it in a way. It's my personal take on that as well. Because, evolution is evolution, and whatever volcanoes are erupting, it's going to be like that. So it's, maybe tragic for every individual life at some point, but there is something that you can always rely on, which is the spiritual aspect of all this.
Yeah, thank you. The material world is always changing. There's so many dangerous things happening, so many concerns environmentally that are coming up about the way that we're treating this planet. And so people can become very hopeless. And we have so much hope, because we know that this material world is ultimately a hopeless place. If you just are stuck in the realm of this material world, how can you be really content? Because everything gets destroyed. Everything. So how can you, it's not a place to rest. We need something solid. So that solidity is spirit, is our connection with Krishna. We need something eternal. So thank you, Anna. I'm not sure I fully grasped your point. I hope that if you want to share again, please feel free. or if anybody else would like to add to this discussion. Would anyone else like to share about how they became attracted to devotional service? Shukadev Goswami is telling us his story, how he became attracted. How did you become attracted? And what keeps you attracted in devotional service? Yes, Manohar.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Initially, it was the philosophy for me. I was kind of like a mental speculator, like the mental acrobat. So I kind of realized that was the Gyani path, and I just kind of like the mental satisfaction from good philosophy. And that was very attractive because that's all very present. Whatever question I have, answer really easily. And so that was extremely attractive to me initially. But as that knowledge started to migrate to the heart, which it's still doing, but getting glimpses of that keeps me going now. Glimpses of Krishna's qualities, kind of like the transition of knowledge to relationship, and hearing Krishna's qualities, his activities, you know, how we can see him all throughout the world, the strength of the strong, the intellect of the intelligent, the sun and the moon, the life force of fruits and vegetables. Being able to remember and perceive those things generates this inner gratitude and relationship that really inspires me to keep going. And hopefully that grows more and more. I can become another.
It was hard to hear you at the end there. It became a little faint.
Yeah, construction in the temple. But yeah, as I'm receiving some of those understandings of Krishna's qualities, I hope to then become an instrument of sharing those qualities with other people, telling people about Krishna's qualities. And then that will be a relationship of its own, being able to share Krishna's qualities with others.
Okay. Thank you. So you're initially attracted by the philosophy, and now learning more how Krishna is in this world, how we can remember him always, learning about his specific qualities, and now starting to share about Krishna is keeping you motivated and keeping you going. I can definitely attest to that. The greatest happiness I get is when I get to be an instrument for sharing Krishna with others. Because Krishna is so pleased by that. So he gives us this amazing experience of gratitude and joy for what we have been given. Thank you. Would anybody else like to share?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thanks all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
It was a nice class.
Thank you.
And then that understanding and then going into the spiritual thing, there's no limit. Even though the Sukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul, from the very day of his birth, he still had to take lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are just going, and there's no end for this. And then what I felt, the previous text was saying, this is, actually we are in preliminary stage and we cannot go to postgraduate stage. Like he was saying in the Srila Prabhupada was mentioning in last text, the medical books of anatomy and physiology are available in the markets. Studying those, we cannot go just like that. So you have to be qualified for that. And then going slow from from the bottom, That's why, that's how the spiritual thing is. Even Sukadeva Goswami he is a liberated soul. He is taking that much time. So we are nowhere in that. And then I had a very beautiful experience yesterday, and I had been to the Radha Yatra Saturday. I just, wanted to climb the hill. I went halfway through. I said, no, I may not be able to climb. And I just turned back and I said, I came halfway. I had to go halfway up. So what should I do there? I was waiting and I grabbed that Shishekar Prabhu. I said, give me your hand, and I had to hold it. I had to go up. I don't want to go back. I went up. And halfway through, he was going with his friends. He was going down. I asked him, and he said, you couldn't say no to me. And he did that, and he came back with me. And I took few steps, and I found Prananath Das Prabhu. And then I said, okay, I'll hold him. He's going up, and you can go to your friends. So he went back, and I hold his hand. But I went up. I didn't go back down. I went after I went there, and okay, I had very nice time with the chariot and everything. And then I was coming down. Okay, another girl, she gave me hand. I said, okay, I'll hold your hand. Till the end, I will take you. So she took me there. Then I said, this was Jagannath's mercy for me.
Mm-hmm.
What can I expect? I couldn't come back. I was halfway through. I was turned back, and I said, I was halfway. And then that was one incident. And then while coming back, and we were coming in the car, and then you look what, Dronacharya Prabhu was taking Jagannath and Subhadra Baldev in his car. He was going ahead of us. And until I came to our exit, he was traveling, we were traveling with him. He said, he's guiding me. Okay, you came here, you safely go home. And there is your exit. You go take the exit, and I'm going straight. So Dronacharya Prabhu went straight, and we took the exit. So what results I need? The whole this Radha Yatra season, I couldn't pull the chariot. I had been to New York, and there I had another experience. I went any street, and the streets were blocked. I couldn't reach the chariot. The chariot was going so fast, because they're blocking the streets. I thought Srila Prabhupada took so much effort to distribute this thing, Krishna consciousness. And at first, how much money he had, how much experience he had, he doesn't know anybody in this country. But there's one stage in New York City, all the streets were blocked for Jagannath to go in the chariot. That is the thing.
Wow.
These are the experiences I had with it. So if we think like that, in each and every step, Krishna is protecting us.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Practical experience.
Amazing.
And I was so happy that I was going with the Jagannath ji, Dronacharya. And until my exit, he said, I'm guiding you, go. That's how I took it. I don't know, it might be. It may not be big for anybody, but that's how I took it.
Thank you so much for sharing
At
those.
this age, what else I need? Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, that example of going up the hill, different devotees holding your hand and bringing you up and then back down, that to me just encapsulates this whole discussion. That's perfectly describing how sweet bhakti is, how simple it is, how easy it is. It's about relationships. We have so much support. Thank you very much.
Heart touching.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I just want to say in brief, because so I beginning to realize that, and I experience it every day, that Krishna knows what we are thinking. Not only how we are behaving, saying, acting, but what we are thinking. So one day, and he helps. If thinking good, he helps. If we are not thinking good about something, he punishes. So, and one day I give you one example. I had this foot pain and I went to CVS and I had to get some other medicine also. I took them, then I went to foot, that aisle. I just browsed and I didn't see. Then I stood on the line, in the line, and I was standing there, and just when I turned around, I saw that foot lotion on the right on the one aisle, and it was not the foot and that foot pain aisle. It was only one lotion standing there on the top of the aisle. I was so surprised to see that. I took it. I bought it, and my pain went away actually. And
Amazing.
Another example, this recently happened. And in the morning, I was thinking about this. I heard about this love matra, something, some verse. I was thinking, what is that kind of this love matra verse? What is that verse? What is that verse? I wanted to, I thought if I'm not able to explain people about Krishna, so at least I can be with them and say a few words. Maybe I'm not that elevated, but it might help others. So thinking, and then it disappeared from my mind. And in the evening, I think Krishna remembered that. I wanted to know that. In the evening, in the class, our shloka class, Vishnu Deda Prabhu said, today we are going to do something different. We are going to do verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And this is Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Satre Kaya, Love Matras, Sadhu Sange, Sarva Siddhi Haya. I was so surprised. I was thinking about it, so surprised. And I thought Krishna knew. I forgot, but Krishna remembered and helped me. And there are so many other examples that increases my faith. And really, I want to increase my devotional service. And thank you for your service also, for giving nice Bhagavatam class and increasing our faith every day in the morning. And Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Suman Sharma Mataji. Yeah, you reminded me of how bhakti, we have Krishna's help. So he's the best at everything. He knows everything. He's in control of everything. He's our best friend. How can we be in anxiety? And Prabhupada also gives this example that an impersonalist, they're like the monkey, the young monkey, I don't know what you would call that, clinging to the back of the mother monkey as the mother is, yes, holding on, exactly. And with so much effort, clinging on. And that's like an impersonalist. For a devotee, we're like the little kitten. And the Lord's like the cat, the mother cat that just takes the kitten in her mouth and just takes the kitten wherever it needs to go. So we're like that. We're like children. We're like infants in the hands of Krishna.
Yeah.
He takes care of everything.
Yeah.
He's Paramatma, he's watching you.
Yeah, he knows everything. He's with us. It would be nice sometime to just have a discussion on those experiences of how we have seen Krishna reciprocate.
That is what devotee association, Prabhu. We get all.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. So maybe one more point and then we'll finish off. Muktidatri Radhika Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, accept my respectful obeisances, Prabhu. So nice discussion going on, and you're like asking, we can like tell you like how we came to like Krishna consciousness and how we are attracted to the personal form of Krishna. So I wanted to share my story. When I was like small, Prabhu, like 6 years old, and I experienced like horrible experience in my life. My father was like so much in so many hard situation. He was like sick for like 1.5 years, and we were struggling like from the beginning of her life, like 5 years. I was 5, then he started get so many disease, and my mom used to so much trouble with him, going to the hospital, and we live alone, me and my brother. From the 5-year-old, we have to cook and do everything, and it was like horrible experience. And I see everybody have a father, and my mom was struggling for whole life. From that time, I wanted to come out of this birth and death, and I never heard something, no one tell me something about we can achieve this thing actually. But when I got married, to my Prabhuji, first time I came in contact with ISKCON, and I heard from him about our Guru Maharaj, how he saw him and he attracted to Guru Maharaj, like Joy Pataka Swami Guru Maharaj. He came to Bangladesh. That time he saw him first time, and he was telling me about if we do this Krishna consciousness, and then we can get rid of this birth and death, and freed from this cycle of birth and death. And I was so attracted to these topics. And then it took me a long time actually to get this process, but I think only possible because my Prabhuji, for him I came into this touch of this ISKCON first time. And when we go to the temple, the Prabhuji is always asking came out of this, we used to eat everything like meat and fish and everything. So they always tell us, but because of the our householder people, like my mother-in-law and everybody else, it was not possible. But we used to do Ekadasi. I started Ekadasi when I got married, first time. Then we do Ekadashi and chanting little bit, sometime 4 rounds, sometime not less than that. But we came into little bit touch of the movement. Then when we came to US, then after 4-5 years, I think, then we actually starting the whole process. And I become, now I don't think about birth and death too much. And I always attracted to the worship. Somehow I got the Radha Krishna deity. One day, one Mataji was asking me, will you want the Radha Krishna? Because someone don't want to serve anymore. So they want somebody who can serve. So somehow I got my Radha Krishna deity, and I start to doing the worship. And now I'm so attracted to my Radha Madhav. And I like Prabhupada always said, how you if you do the dressing nicely and always think about that, you become more attracted to Radha Krishna. And that's really true. Whenever I do the dressing, and after some days I feel like, no, this is not attracted anymore. I have to do something else. So it's like that. Always we are thinking about Krishna. This is really nice, and how we can become more attached to Krishna if you have the personal form. That's how the another story we have, the Radha Raman deity, right? So I forgot his name, who was worshipping the Shalagram. So he was thinking
is it Gopal Bhatta Goswami?
Yes, I think so. So he was thinking if I have the form of the deity, then I can decorate him nicely. So then as his wish, the Shalagram become the Radharaman. That story was so nice.
Yeah.
It attracted me so much.
Yes. Thank you so much. Really amazing hearing about your story, coming to Krishna consciousness. So by the grace of Krishna's devotees, your husband, your spiritual master, and specifically through deity worship, you've been more and more attracted to Krishna. Wonderful.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, we could just go on and on,
Yeah,
but I know you all have things to do.
it
So
won't be.
thank you very much for the chance to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. And thank you all for sharing, contributing to this discussion. Srila Prabhupada.
Brhat Prabhu, Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna. Vichapatitanam Pavanevya
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
I'm sorry.
Brhat Prabhu, yeah, if I can, I just want to mention something really quickly.
Yes, Prabhu.
I noticed that some of the devotees here on the call may not have been in the temple yesterday. So I just want to let them know, and so that they can also share, just their good thoughts and appreciation for you and your service. So Brhat Mrdanga Prabhu is going to be departing from Philadelphia this week. He's off to his next journey, his next mission, to visit other Krishna House temples and see where Krishna House can be established. So we definitely thank him so much. These classes that you've shared on this Zoom, as well as in the temple, have been very enlivening to the devotees, I can tell. I'm personally inspired by them. And the Krishna House, when Brhat Prabhu came, I was hoping he'd say he would stay here for indefinitely, but it was very clear I'm here for 6 months. So that 6 months has come to an end. They came in February. Now we're slowly winding up July. So he will be back from time to time and see what Krishna has in store in the future. But we want to definitely thank him and wish him all the best as he moves from place to place, spreading Krishna consciousness.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Come back soon.
Yes, Mataji.
Want you to be back.
Yeah, we're going to miss a very blissful devotee who is so enthusiastic in devotional service, kirtan, hearing and chanting, and you're such an asset to this temple. We're really going to miss you, and your the other devotee Manohar and Prema and everybody that came with you. We're really going to miss you. It's very sad actually for me. I feel sad that you're all leaving. I wish you can stay here.
Rather than Hari will bring you back.
Yes, indeed. Thank you all for your very kind words. Yes, Manohar and Prelamrita have given there's so much of their energy and time and put in so much to get momentum going here with this Krishna House. And our hope is that a devotee couple, they may be coming here soon. It's not confirmed yet, but they will hopefully be here and they'll be able to keep the Sankirtan going. And his wife likes deity worship and she could help out. So stay tuned for future updates.
But we'll miss you.
I'll miss you all.
Miss you, Prabhu. Last week, I told you, Prabhu, to come our house like Sunday. You came to Bensalam?
We didn't come this week.
Oh, okay. I was thinking I forgot. Then, we had a class on Sunday, so then I somehow forgot. Otherwise, I could have called. Like
no problem.
Ask my Prabhuji to call you.
Well, I definitely will come back.
Okay, whenever you come back, just visit us once.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank
you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada.